You're listening to the Savoir Faire Audio Experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire Experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Savoir Faire Audio Experience. Thank you guys for listening, following, sharing, and engaging. I really appreciate all of the love you guys are showing us. This is awesome that we're breaking ground on close to 150 episodes already in a very short amount of time. Today was another great interview, and I'm super excited to kind of just talk about home renovation and home decor because it's something I need in my world for sure. So we're going to pick this person's brain like crazy. Melissa Schneider. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Hey, great to be here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I really appreciate you finding time to come and talk to me about your business and what you guys have going on over there. She's the owner of homesinnovation.com. So if you guys want to go check out the website and see what's going on, please do. But Melissa, I'm really interested in this stuff because I keep looking at my bachelor pad and I'm just like, there must be a better way to make this stuff look better, be more comfortable. I also have Airbnb properties and I always think about how can I enhance those to make the experience better. So I'm excited to pick your brain about a lot of interior design stuff and potential renovation stuff. But I'm always curious about like entrepreneurs and how they get things started in life. And so I'm really curious about your first introduction to home remodeling and interior design. Where does this story start for you?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So if I'm totally honest, it probably started back when I was a little kid. I think I was around 8, 9, 10 years old, and I would redecorate my room like every 2 or 3 months. There would be different themes, and I love the show Designing Women. So back in that time in my life, if somebody ever asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I definitely answered, I want to be an interior designer. But then I learned about airplanes and travel, and then I told everybody I wanted to be a flight attendant. So, I had lots of interests and lots of passions, but I didn't go the formal route. I definitely zigged and zagged to find my way to interior design. I got a degree in marketing and I studied brand development and brand launching, brand design, strategic brand experiences. And that's really what I did for well over a decade. And it was kind of through that I got that creative outlet to express myself and my creativity and try to like bring these brands to life and be very involved in all of their visuals, whether it was in person or online or et cetera. So from there, I lived in that world in New York City for about over a decade. And then my husband and I moved to Florida. And when we got to Florida, we got really interested in real estate investing. It was a great time to invest. Interest rates were like 2%. And so we started picking up some properties and doing some flips. So I actually started as like a home flipper. And then we were purchasing properties out of state. We had properties in Kentucky, Ohio, Louisiana, and it was pretty basic fixes on these houses. Sometimes it was just organizing a new roof and picking out, what color and what materials we were going to use, or we were doing, new bathroom and the tiles in tiling and things like that. So it started out pretty small. But then we got our hands on some properties locally, and those ones we would spend a lot more time on. And that's when I got really into it. And I thought to myself, I could really make a career with this. And as I started sharing that with friends and family, people started hiring me and asking me to fix up their house before they put it on the market. For example, I had a friend in a beautiful, like $3 million house on the water. And she was going through an unfortunate divorce and they needed to sell the house. So I came in and I repaired all the flooring that they had. We repaired like the fence and just did a lot of cosmetic stuff with new draperies, fresh paint on the walls, and got places fixed up. And from there, it just really kind of organically grew. And it was just an interesting, non-conventional way to find my way to design, for sure.
Very cool. I love that. And I was going to ask, do you think it's like a telltale sign that if you rearrange your furniture all the time that you have a design bug? Because I do that often.
So I think there's probably not a fine line between being very OCD and having a design bug. They like go hand in hand. I am super OCD, but I've gotten better because I have kids now. And so you have to let loose and let go of the control a little bit when you have little ones. But I just love the creativity around it. I love that, just changing a photo or changing like a piece of art in a room or changing a paint color on a wall can really change your experience when you walk into the space. And that to me is what it's all about, is creating that energy and creating that mood, because that's the power in design.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. And that's very cool. And I do that stuff. I mean, I just repainted my living room. I move around furniture quite often. I have 2 rooms that are wide connected and they have like a little space between them. And one is my home office and the other one is my living space. And so I often swap back and forth because I just need different feels. So it's kind of interesting, but like at the end of the day, I'd love to have an interior design person just come through and be like, okay, fix all of this so I feel comfortable in my space and I don't have to keep changing stuff all the time. Well, it's cool that you guys started this business kind of doing flipping and stuff, because I think that's a big part of the direction I wanted to go with some of the questions I had for you today. And obviously there's another layer to this too, and I want to dive into that too. But talk to me a little bit about like launching Homes Innovation, because it's one thing to kind of be like, oh yeah, I have this friend Melissa who's really good at this stuff, compared to actually launching a business. So how did you guys kind of build and structure the business and decide that like, this is what we're going to call it and this is what we're going to do, and just start expanding? I mean, you have people that are working for you now. So talk to me about the start of the business part.
Yeah. So yes, it's a really big difference between your girlfriend hiring you and throwing you a couple, checks for your time. And then, sitting down with your CPA and crunching some very serious numbers and trying to make sure that you are filing your taxes right and that you've done everything according to the books. So, what really happened was, after I was handling a few friends' projects, I got hired at Ballard Design. I really wanted to have like some real deal training. So I got hired at Ballard Design, and I was really kind of dabbling in both, as many designers do. We sometimes even I know a lot of people will use their, 9-to-5 job or their part-time job working like furniture sales or lighting sales or even doing closet design to bring in clients so they can remodel your whole house or redecorate your whole house. Like, that's how they're going to meet people. So I got this great training from Ballard Design. They opened up a very boutique design studio. It was the first of its kind in West Palm Beach, Florida. I was on a team of 6 people who opened this store. We went through an intensive 2-month training. It was fantastic. I got a lot of education that I had been missing and needing, although I really was self-taught through, everything: podcasts, reading books, watching masterclass, all of the things. And I dealt into Ballard Designs and really met some great contacts there. And there were some people that, kind of pulled me aside and was like, hey, could you remodel my bathroom? And I'm like, okay, yeah, And so I do a few things. But then I had like just kind of this moment where I said to my husband, are we going to really be serious about this? And he said, yeah, I'm going to get my GC license. And I said, that's great. If you're going to get your GC license, I'm going to work on everything else on the other end. And so that from there, I started saying, all right, let's just start little by little. So it was, let's get an Instagram page. Let's get a website built. Let's start to see what type of marketing we could do out in our community. And so from there, we little by little pieced it together. And I don't think I really felt like we made it until we signed a lease and had our actual office showroom space. It was kind of that moment that I felt like, wow, we've really come so far from I'm doing my friend, Susie's house to I've got a showroom. I've got suppliers that are bringing me different materials and samples, and we have everything here that we need to put together anything a client could ever want. We got some great interns from FAU. They still work with me now. One of them has been with me for over a year, and everything just kind of fell into place. And then, of course, we also have all of our, men out in the trade that do things, anything from wallpaper hanging to demoing and laying subfloor. So we have all of those types of contacts that we've been working with, and we've been creating these relationships with them, I would say, for like a good 4 years now. So, we just kind of hit that over the peak mark in the last year, and it's been such a wild ride, but it's been really great.
Yeah, I love that you guys have divided and conquered, right? So obviously Andreas is your husband. He's got this general contracting. He's doing all this stuff on the one side, and then you kind of dive into the interior design piece. And together you guys have created this really cool company that can just knock it out of the park depending on any layer of the project, which is really great. I think that's super cool. I'm really curious about, word of mouth helps, and obviously like building up clientele and obviously opening up the store. But talk to me about the marketing strategy, because I heard you say in the very beginning that you had a marketing background, and then right out of the gate, it was website and Instagram for the business. So those are things that excite me a little bit. What ways were you kind of expanding to get people that weren't in the word of mouth kind of trained to get, clients to come in?
Yeah, that's a great question. And with my marketing background, right, you'd think I'd walk in and I'd have things really figured out. I didn't. I didn't have them figured out at all, Robert. I came from, I came from a different generation. And when I was in my 20s launching brands, it was all about Facebook. It was all about these massive Facebook campaigns and experiential marketing campaigns. And we were doing major tours across the country. And it was just kind of a different time. And then here we are building this company really right about towards the middle to beginning of COVID, I would say. And it was a very different animal. And even Instagram platform was very different. And so I kind of said to myself, well, if I've worked with so many startups. So I was like, if I'm working for a startup company and they came to me with this business model and said, where should we go first? What would you say? And where should they spend their small marketing dollars first? So we first started out with SEO. Unfortunately, as much as I tried to do the best research I could, I chose an SEO company that was very small, and I ended up going back and having somebody fact check all the work they had done. I had two companies come in and basically do like this deep dive, and they found that all the backlinks that were created were fake, and basically I got ripped off in a nutshell, like completely ripped off. So SEO didn't really work well for us. And then we went into hiring on with a marketing agency here in Boca Raton, Florida, and they really pushed us for Google Ads. So we did Google Ads for a long time. And you know what? I never got one phone call from Google Ads. So I'll tell you, after those two things, I said, I'm going to go focus in on what I love the most, not what I think will work, but what do I love? And what I love is being with people. I love being in the scene and having experiences and having fresh conversations. And so I started to look for different pop-up events and different local markets that we could join and that we could get a booth at. And so I created some marketing materials. I made some flyers, some, discount coupon code things and business cards and all of that. Got branded, tablecloth, like the whole bit. We had branded T-shirts. And we kind of said, okay, but what's our draw? What's going to bring people into the booth? Like, do you want to come in the booth and talk to me about design? You want to come talk to me about how outdated your kitchen is? Like, there's so many sparkly, shiny things at these events. And so we needed a way to stand out. Well, funny enough, my children had really gotten into creating art. And they were making these beautiful pour paint art creations. And we really thought, you know what? Let's let them bring those pieces to the booth, and let's see if those pieces will be a draw. And we couldn't believe the response we got. So it started when my youngest son was 4 years old, that we were bringing him into these events where we were promoting homes innovation, but we were luring people in with the kids' beautiful art pieces. And I remember, I'll never forget one show. He sold, I think, 12 pieces and made over $400.
Wow.
And we just said, whoa, we really have something on our hands. We also then realized we priced things way too low. So, first year, the prices were really low and they continued to, go up a little bit as their skills got better and their pieces got more intricate and more detailed. But that was, without a doubt, the biggest way we got clients. It was all the pop-up events. It was all the art festivals that we did and all the markets that we did. That was where we got a ton of clients. And once we got in certain groups, they would share their experience within their network of friends, and it would just kind of go down the line and it would spread. Nothing else worked except for that.
That's so cool, actually. I mean, I like the idea that you guys are like going out to little festivals and meeting people and doing that stuff and allowing your kids' art to kind of be a centerpiece with the way that you're kind of doing the marketing perspective. I could see, and I was thinking, like, when you're telling me this story of like this unique little thing that I probably would say to people in your position, I would just be like, hey, if you get this art piece home and you put it on your wall and the room doesn't fit right, call me. you know, like make it everything build around the art piece, and like just call me. I can do the interior design stuff. We can knock walls down if we need to. Like once the art's on the wall, just call us if things need to be changed. Yeah, very, very cool. I like the idea of that too, and it's cool to know that like the kids are super creative. I saw that on the website too. Homesinnovation.com has a little artistry link where you can jump over and see bodhi-sky.com, which is the artwork that your kids do. So shout out to them. It's super cool that you mentioned that. Also to me, we'll kind of get off topic here and go down a little rabbit hole and brag about your babies. They have some cool art stuff happening. Yeah. Like talk to me a little bit about their brand really quick.
Yeah. So, I mean, believe me, I did not see this coming. We really, it's a funny story how they stumbled into it. Our neighbor, who is like their uncle, he's just the nicest man in the world. And he's a jack of all trades. He's super talented and gifted, photography, artistry, makes, structures and just all kinds of cool sculptures and things. He was doing it in his garage. And my 4-year-old was like, I want to do that, Mom. And I said, all right, let's watch YouTube videos. Let's go to Michael's craft store. Let's get all the things and I'll sit with you in the garage and we'll make these things. He would spend at 4 years old, 2 to 3 hours, no problem, only doing art.
Wow.
And this is when I said to myself, I think my kid's an actual artist, which didn't surprise me. My great grandmother was a seamstress who built custom wedding dresses. And my mother is an artist, mostly painting, like watercolors and different things. And so I just thought, man, he's got this talent. My other son enjoyed going to these festivals and selling his brother's artwork. He was the salesman. He was the kid that would walk up to you and start talking to you, and you're scratching your head going, are you 7 years old or are you like 18 years old? What's going on? So eloquently speaking. And he was able to, tell people like, this is my brother's artwork, but my mom is a designer and my dad's a general contractor and they have this great business and they could remodel anything in your home. And you just look at him and go, what is happening? So he had this great gift of gab, but I'll tell you the funniest thing was when the older one started seeing how much the younger one was making money-wise. And he says, I'm going to get into this art thing. Wait a second. He's like, I'll do the sales, but can I get in the garage and make the art too? And I said, absolutely. And he's an engineer by heart. So when they're in the garage now creating art together, the oldest one, Sky, he is creating things on his 3D printer to like mix the paint. And then he made a cup that like has all these different slots so they could do a rainbow of paint colors and then pour it on the canvas in a perfect rainbow pattern. So he's got all these brilliant ideas, and it's almost like Bodhi has the vision and then Sky has the means to get it done.
Very cool.
Yeah. So through these art shows, they got a little fan base, and then some of my clients started requesting custom pieces. And that's when we really started saying, maybe we have something here. Like, this is kind of a big deal. They sold their first piece for, over $1,000. And we just started thinking, wow, their art is getting better and better. And so I started to think, as their pieces got larger, maybe we need to be in galleries. And I applied to a lot of local galleries and in South Florida, a little bit in Miami, but mostly more around West Palm Beach area. And I think we were a little dismissed. I think they were not as intrigued because of their age. I think they saw that as a disadvantage. And on a whim, I started applying to places in my old hometown, New York City. And lo and behold, I had 2 galleries reach out to me and say, we want a meeting with you next week. Can you fly up here? We want to meet your sons. Can you bring an art piece? We're extremely interested. And so those 2 meetings were brilliant and exciting and just over the top, more than we could have ever imagined. And we had this difficult choice of choosing one gallery over the other, which honestly was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life because they were both so fantastic. But we went with the one that we felt was the best for the trajectory of their art career. They have ties to Miami's Art Basel, and they run Red Dot, which is one of the galleries that we had our eye on for something local. So they have their first ever solo exhibit coming up on July 23rd, 24th, and 25th at the Loft Gallery, which is part of the Agora Gallery in Chelsea. And they will literally have 30 art pieces that they have created hanging on the walls there.
That's incredible. That's so, so cool. I'm sure you're a very, very, very proud mother. I can hear it in your voice. The idea of this kind of ticking off is so great. Bodhi and Sky, congratulations, boys. I think this is super, super cool. Well, let's dive back into a little bit more about homes innovation. I want to pick your brain because I think people get a little bit lost on interior design and obviously some general contracting stuff. So let's just assume for a second that I came to you and my kitchen was a complete mess, let's just start with the kitchen. I think we focused on the kitchen. My kitchen's a complete mess. There's a lot of changes that need to happen. What things can we do in our kitchens to make or increase value to our home?
There's so many things you can do to increase the value in your kitchen space. Most of the time when we do a kitchen remodel, it's going to be a gut renovation. I don't normally find that I can keep everything unless you were already in good shape, you just wanted to elevate. If you're already in good shape and you just want to elevate, I'm probably going to come in and recommend that we change the backsplash, that we change like some features like the faucets and the handles. Maybe I'll come in with a great company I know called Wrap My Kitchen. I'm going to have them wrap your cabinets so that we have a fresh look. We can totally change colors. We can totally change the vibe and just wrap them. That is literally a third of the cost of new cabinets. And I'm probably going to bring in some new lighting. And maybe if we need to, we'll throw up some fresh paint. But that would be like, your kitchen's in good shape. You just need to refresh it. We could come in and do something like that. Now, if your kitchen is what most would call like old and dingy, we're going to gut it. We're going to take it down to the studs, and we're really going to talk about things like, does the dishwasher make sense here? Does the sink make sense here? Is this where your stove really should be? And we're going to see, do we need to move some water and electrical around so that we can have a better layout? There is this magical Bermuda Triangle, if you will, in the kitchen that creates that perfect flow. So you want to have that flow in the kitchen between your refrigerator, your stove, and your sink. And you want it to be working for you, not against you. So if there's something in your way, or if it's too tight of a space, and we have areas where you get like traffic jams, that's the kind of stuff we want to open up and create a new floor plan. So I always start with the basics, right? We want to get the floor plan right, and then we can go into what's your aesthetic? What goes with the rest of the house, or what direction maybe do you want to take your house? And you're going to start with the kitchen, and then slowly over the year, over the next couple of years, you can help transform all the other spaces in your house to catch up with what your kitchen's look is. Like, let's say you have a really modern home. And after a while, you feel like, oh, it's just kind of cold. I found somebody and my new partner thinks it's cold and they don't like that. They want something more warm and inviting. So you want to go a little more coastal or something that's contemporary that has a little bohemian vibe to it. So we would create that look in the kitchen, and then you could spread it out through the rest of the house. But really it comes down to having some great cabinets. There's a great cabinet manufacturer that I love called Jarlin. I use mostly Jarlin in my houses because Jarlin has a warehouse locally here in South Florida, and I can put in an order for cabinets and typically pick them up within 3 to 5 days. So the thing that Homes Innovation really loves to boast about is that we don't want to be in your space for a long time. We want to get in, make the decisions, make them correctly and accurately, and then we want to get to work, and we're not going to stop until we're done. My guys show up every single day until the job is done. There's no, we'll get the ball rolling and then we start to meander off, because that's what we hear from a lot of other clients that have been unsatisfied with design or GC firms in the past. So we want to come in, we want to build those cabinets, we want to get them installed, and we want to get it done. And then we'll go in and we'll figure out all the lighting and the electrical and things like that. But for really creating value in the home, I would say having all wood, the best quality cabinets that you can have, and then also choosing a really great stone slab for your countertop. Right now, I think the most popular is probably quartz because of its durability and because of all the beautiful looks that they have. Cambria, hands down, is my favorite, one of my favorite slab companies to work with. They have designs that just stand out. They're not in competition with anybody because they stand alone in the way that they bake in the design that they have for their quartz slabs. So I think it's really about having things that are timeless. And that's what the materials I like to use are more timeless materials, that it's more about it looking so aesthetically pleasing that it's not about a fad. It's not about a trend. It's not about this is what's in right now, so we're going to go with this. It's really more about this is great quality and it has a timeless look, and therefore we're going to put that into the home, and that's going to create the value add, because when you eventually go to sell that home or that condo or whatever it is, you're going to have a lot more interested buyers because you've got those timeless pieces in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's super cool. I appreciate that kind of response too, because it's a lot of general contracting, also interior design aspects that you guys do. So let's challenge you on another one. Let's just talk about the living space where everybody sits all the time. Give me some interior design perspectives to. It's tough to not have a visual with you, just to show you a photo and be like, tell me what you would do here. But like, let's just assume that it's like what you run into on a daily basis, right? The nice square room, white walls, like really kind of blah furniture. Like, give me all the little pieces that people could do to their living rooms just to kind of enhance something besides getting Bodie and Sky artwork on your walls.
Yeah, obviously we're going to have a hero art piece. And it's going to be a Bodie and Sky original. You can go to their website and pick it out now. But no, on a serious note, the first thing I start with is applying color theory. I love this part of my job. I love to sit down and ask people questions of things that they don't really ever think about, which is, when you look at this color, what's the feeling? When you look at a warm color like red or orange, what does that bring to mind? What's the first instinctual thought that you have, right? Or what is a color like khaki? What does that bring to mind? Or blue or green? Color theory applied into the home is so important because it influences everything. It influences your mood, your behaviors, your comfort levels. So I really like to first and foremost figure out what are the colors that resonate with you. And this also is where we don't need the opinions of your mother-in-law or your best friend or your sister or your aunt. They're not living here. It's your house. And you wouldn't believe how many people are like, so I saw this thing, at the store, and I'm thinking of, maybe designing around it. And I was with my sister, and she loved it. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what your sister likes. It matters what you like.
Right.
So I would go into this color theory first, because then we know what our color palette is, and we're going to stick to it. This is the difference between a whipped together college dorm room versus I hired a designer and it looks effortlessly perfect. That's because we did it right. So the first step, color theory, make your color palette. Then from there, I would go into talking about what is the piece that you have in your home. And if you're younger, you might not have this piece yet, but what is your hero piece? And typically this is something that holds some sort of significant emotional value to you. It could be something that you got handed down from a grandparent. It could be a tapestry. It could be a piece of art, or it could be a glass vase that you got when you were traveling in Italy and you just had to have it and you had it shipped home. Whatever that thing is, I would figure out first, where can we put that? And then I want to design around it. I don't want to design around the TV. I want to design around your hero piece. So that's the focal point, because that is something that is significant to you. And that is something, again, it's all about your energy, your emotion, your creativity. That's going to bring that out for you in your home. So that's cool. Very important. The next thing I like to think about is, how can we bring in elements of nature? Because it is so proven that human beings feel better, we feel lighter, we feel more connected to ourselves and connected to the earth, less stressed out when we spend time in nature. So bringing in plants, even if they're fake, that's fine. Let's just pick some good ones. And let's figure out where we can place those so that we can bring in, a little bit of the outside inside. And my last piece of advice that I would give for someone who just really wants to refresh their living space, or whatever the space space is in their home, is take a look at your lighting. Take a look at the lighting situation, because I'll tell you, there have been so many times that I have gone into somebody's home and, the first time, and they're like, so, they're showing me around, here's the dining room. I want to keep this table, but I don't like the chairs. And here's this, credenza that, was handed down, and I'm okay with getting rid of it. And the whole time, all I'm thinking is, I can't see what you're even talking about because it's so dark in here. I mean, it blows my mind how many people live in spaces that are almost cave-like, and the light is not coming in, and it's not coming in through the windows. They have blinds and curtains and plantation shutters, or the light isn't coming in because the light situation, they don't like it when they flip the switch, so they don't. And so this, again, really affects our mood. This affects who we are, how productive we're going to be with our day, how enlightened we're going to be with our day. What energy are we going to give off? So the lighting is super, super important. And I would definitely spend some time in that department, just taking a look around and taking note of what could I do to improve the lighting situation in that space.
That's so cool. And I appreciate the tips. I'm making notes right now. I'm just writing stuff.
Are
yeah.
You okay?
I'm going to go look at my house again from this perspective and start analyzing things. And and then I'm just going to call Melissa and be like, okay, this is what I came up with. What do you think? And so very cool. I appreciate that so much. This business is legit. You guys are based in Florida, but you have clients. Do you have clients all over the country? Are you available to go anywhere depending on budget?
I'll tell you, I want to. I really want
okay.
to. We're at that phase where, with the boys going to New York City and having their art gallery, and I have, pretty great network up in New York. So I'm very excited about the potential of working on some great New York projects and collaborating with other designers. And we had somebody inquire with us. I think it was a window company that we used. They were like, oh, somebody's looking for a designer, but they need you to live in the Keys for 4 months. Would you do that? And I'm like, hey, if the numbers are right and the energy is good, right? If we're connecting, if we have great chemistry, I'm absolutely going to go spend 4 months in the Keys making your home beautiful. Not a problem.
Right. Yeah, very cool. Well, I'm glad that you're open to it. I want to send people over to your website. So homesinnovation.com is the website. We did talk about Bodie and Sky, so we'll talk about bodie-sky.com to check out the artwork. The boys are going to be in New York City at the Loft on July 23rd, 24th, 25th. So if you guys are in New York-based people and want to go connect with, Melissa and her husband to talk about dragging them to New York for innovation projects, you can do it then. And then beyond that, like, just go follow everybody on social and Facebook. I mean, I checked out your Instagram account. It's adorable. You got all the good stuff there for Homes Innovation. Obviously, the boys have features and stuff there. Just congratulations on everything, honestly, Melissa. Like, I know it's not easy to start a business when you come from, kind of a unique background and kind of dive into an industry like this, but it's so cool to hear that, you're well educated, you've got great knowledge, you have this great studio where people can come and engage with you and learn, your craft. And I think that people should really kind of absorb from some of the best. And I think you're probably one of the better ones in your category. So I appreciate you finding time to communicate with me today. It was a very nice conversation.
Oh my gosh, I'm beaming and gushing. Thank you so much. I could talk about design and art literally all day long. And I think that's also part of like starting the conversation with people and starting the relationship. It's not always about just, hey, here's your estimate. Do you want to do this? Yes or no? I always tell my clients when we're done with a project, I'm like, I want you to contact me for everything. I don't want you to just stop calling me. I want you to say, hey, I was, thinking about getting a new bedspread for the winter. What do you think about this? That's, there's no fee attached. I love talking about this stuff. So this has been truly, truly a joy for me. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.